This is going to allow Ukraine to strike Russian positions far deeper inside occupied territory, including very critically inside the illegally annexed Crimean Peninsula. You know, it's the Ukrainians have been asking for three principal heavy weapon systems for some time now. That's longer range artillery, tanks, which they have already started to get, again, thanks to the Brits breaking the logjam earlier this year with the Challengers, and also modern fighter jets. And there is signs now being led by the Dutch that that may be coming in. But look, up to now, the longest range artillery we have given them have been the HIMARS, which have a maximum range of 80 kilometers. These Storm Shadow, which are launched from jets, have a maximum range of 250 kilometers and fly in very, very low to avoid enemy radar. This is critical because this is going to allow Ukraine to strike Russian positions far deeper inside occupied territory, including very critically inside the illegally annexed Crimean Peninsula. You know, it's very significant that General Ben Hodges, a former Supreme Commander of US ground forces in Europe, has been saying recently that for Ukraine to take back Crimea is absolutely critical to the success of this war, that Ukraine can never be safe or secure while Russia holds Crimea and the various Black Sea ports there.
Okay.
So it's hugely significant,
right.
I think.
Hugely significant. And for those of us who obviously are not military people, the fact that this can be fired from an aircraft and from it has such a long range, I suppose you could say it is safer, in speech marks.
Yes, it is safer for the Ukrainian fighters because the fact that it can be fired from an aircraft, and it can also be fired from the old Soviet type aircraft like the MiG-29, which are currently what the Ukrainians use. So it's compatible with the MiG-29, and that's very, very important. But the fact that it can be fired from an aircraft gives an awful lot more safety to the Ukrainian pilots who will be firing.
Right. But the line isn't the greatest, Cormac. Yeah, go on.
I was going to say one thing. There is a grey area here. My understanding is that we and the other allies will not be happy for Ukraine to use these to strike targets inside of Russia. And it is many of these targets that the murderous missile attacks are being launched from against Ukrainian civilian targets. But nevertheless, the ability that it gives to strike Russian positions inside occupied Ukraine is very significant indeed.
But how much say, honestly, does the supplier nation, the UK, have in how the artillery is actually used, how the missiles will be used in the theatre of war?
Well, look, Ukraine has been asking for these weapons for 15 months. In truth, we in the West have been slow in giving them all of the weapons that they need. I think the Ukrainians know that if they were to go against the conditions that we put upon them on the use of these weapons, that it would jeopardize any future supplies. So I think the relations between Ukraine and the NATO allies, Britain in particular, are such that the Ukrainians are going to stand by any agreement that is made and the conditions that would be put on them by ourselves and the other NATO allies.
Do we know how many we're supplying?
No, we don't, and probably we shouldn't know either, but I've certainly looked through all of the information and that detail is not given anywhere. But we are led to believe that they either we have agreed now and to supply them, but they may well be in Ukraine and in the hands of Ukraine's armed forces already, but we do not know how many.
Okay.